So to the lumber word, we're live on the 21st of May. Welcome to everybody on Twitter, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the other venues. We'll actually do the podcast and record it after this and launch it out, but like doing it live. Episode 122. Matt, Greg, Charles, how y'all doing?
Fantastic.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Matt, you're
Matt's
leaving for
Matt's got his bags. Matt's got his bags packed, man. He's going for National Lampoon European Vacation.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. Can't wait. Never been there.
That'll be a good time. You could not have picked a better
be.
time in the market to do it either.
I don't know. I'm not as sour on the market as some people are, but we can talk about that later.
Well, let's.
You know what? I like Ash is thinking that he's like wants to go and have me get prescribed, some Xanax or something because I'm bipolar on this market. I'm like one day I'm like, giddy up, let's go, we're going, and then the next day I'm going, oh man, we got to move some lumber. We got way too much wood.
I think,
and then I'm back the next day going, hey, you know what? I just bought this, and this, right?
Yeah,
Ash,
no.
How do you feel
Look,
about
it's hard. When we did the podcast last week, we were challenging any little giddy up in the market as probably without much follow through. Am I still there? Yeah, but I'm leaning more toward there's some good stuff happening just on the fringes to keep me pretty excited. Plus all the new conspiracy theories going on about like what's what Trump's going to do and everything like that. And just it's leading to an action-packed show where we don't just talk about sticks flying around the United States here. So, this week was
Let's jump into that.
Yeah. Well, this week it's interesting. Like,
we had housing starts came out on Friday. Do you want to do a quick recap of that?
Well, we could do that. I want to go through what we saw in the market first, like after we wrapped the show last week. Right. So if you just looked at print yesterday, you would say, oh my God, everything printed down except 2x4 9-footers in the East. And that probably doesn't tell the whole story. While stuff is printing down, there is some business being done. I can tell you on the Eastern Canadian side, 14s and 16s look good. 2x4 9-footers, I mean, they're solid. We had all kinds of people calling secondaries trying to cover shorts on 2x4 9-footers all along the East Coast. We're saying no to today. Hard to find 2x4 14s and 16s. There are a few loaders out there you could buy. 6-inch was weaker, but it seems like it's starting to clean up. Not a lot of Euro out there. And then Matt, I could tell it looks like U.S. species kind of traded off a little bit. I'm guessing there's some volume behind that. Are you seeing any of that at all?
I mean, yeah, over here where I sit, there's plenty of activity each day. And basically the way I described it to one of my customers yesterday was, every day the mills come in and they've got some problem pile that they want to deal with. And then the customers have, specific inquiries that they want to deal with. And somehow we're matching all that stuff up and getting transactional business on a day-to-day basis. And it's all coming at, sort of in the gentleman counter range in the $5 to $10 range. So we feel like, especially on studs, the bottom's in. So the lowest prices we had to take on studs were like 2.5 weeks ago. And same thing with dimension. We haven't had to go and just beg for orders. It's actually, I think it's just a good, solid trading market. There's a equal mix of buyers and sellers. And I think mills, if they got their ears open, they're getting the job done, out West. I can't speak for the Eastern mills, but I do feel like there's been some success over here. I have noticed that the Eastern mills that were offering me a bunch of deals, a week and a half ago, they've kind of gone quiet. So maybe they've solved enough of their problems also that they're willing to just see what happens in June and, just kind of slow play this a little bit. But I feel like, equally balanced market right now between supply and demand is really how it feels.
That's it.
Yeah, the market has to stop going down before it can go up. I mean, I think we've identified a bunch of items that's the case. I think there's still some items that are issues. I keep thinking, and I don't know if this is like a wanting. I keep thinking that 2x6 is like trying to bottom out, and then I'm able to buy, a little mini block, another, 10, 20 to $30 below the last one that I thought was going to be a really good buy. And I'm looking at my inventory. I'm going, hey, how can I have 2x6 is $150 above the price that I just paid? How does that happen, Ashley?
You just got to forget about those.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I look at the market, we were in Montreal, and okay, no tariffs. Futures dropped $100. The market liquidity, sold off for a better part of 4 or 5 weeks there. 2 weeks ago, we had a short covering rally Thursday, Friday. Last week we had a little follow through on Wednesday, Thursday, and to Matt's point, mills are probably in spruce mills and U.S. West mills are probably in a little bit better. You're probably another week or two away from maybe seeing more up prints, Ashley, I think. And then you're going to be in, early mid-June staring at, prospects for summer shutdowns. We're going to get an update on CVD AD, whether that's August or September. And, I know you want to talk about 232.
Well, so we'll go to that one. But Charles, I look at the print on yellow pine and I see double digits everywhere. So that really means it's trading $100 off 1,000 in the cash market. I mean, are we going to get to 200? Are we going to get to 250 delivered on 6-inch, which is crazy? I mean, you're down to, you were saying 300 delivered last week, and the market just keeps trying to find some kind of trading range on that, right?
I mean, it's just a cliff that never stops.
Speaking of cliff, hats off to Cliff Clavin, the character. Yeah.
Yeah. Norm.
I don't know. I mean, there's too much 6-inch. It looks like every mill that I talk to, whether it's central, west side, or the east side, has a 6-inch problem. I mean, we transacted some business at a sub $300 delivered basis, and that was into, South Central Georgia. So, I mean, prices are getting to a point to where there's going to have to be some real hard conversations. And I mean, the other thing is you got 4-inch that is like the gift that just keeps on giving. I mean, one week it's, $60, $70, $80 under print, and then print kind of catches up to it. A mill clears a build up, and then 7 days later, they got the same problem. I'm hearing major treaters over here have too much wood. Sheds are busting at the seams, but the pricing levels are where they are investment levels for them. So they see a reason to buy wood, but where are they going to take it? If they don't have the takeaway, I mean, at some point there's a, delineation of return, or however you say that. Right. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to go ahead and transact business at any level, because if you're not going to sell it, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And, I think Southern Yellow Pine mills are really going to have to look at how they transact business based on some of these sharp changes and the velocity at which they happen. Right. I mean, hell, 3 weeks ago, 2 before 16 was low 500. I mean, you're 100 and, well, probably mid 500s. Right. And I mean, you're $130 under that, but you were $80 under it pretty quickly. I mean, 2 before 12 print was 545 a week and a half ago. I was buying it at 470. Right. I mean, how do you prevent that from happening? You actually have an order file. You don't just sell a 7-day shipping window, or, oh, well, we can only go this far. Or, no, I don't want to look at that, at the end of June. I'd rather just ship what I have on the ground and not worry about it. I think the approach has to change. And the other thing is that all the markets that y'all primarily deal in, I mean, there's a shipping lag, right? Even a majority of the time. If you're shipping it from Western or Eastern Canada, those deliverable markets are a week, anywhere from 3 to 10, 12 days out. Right. Whereas, I can buy 5 loads for one customer, and they all deliver in the next day by lunch. And that coming back is really making it an issue because liquidity dries up pretty quick. You can only solve so many buildups so quickly.
Yeah. Does that just mean from what I'm hearing you say is, I mean, I've kind of pushed this thing as we don't really have an accurate assessment of how much pine is being produced out there.
No, you don't.
And what
There's
the
no way.
What the price is telling me is
there's too much.
There's a lot of pine being produced right now.
Yeah, there's too much, man.
And that generally will take care of itself with low prices like it's doing now, and it'll find a way to trade. All right, Greg, housing, you were talking about the top mark.
It's low prices. Are they cure for low prices?
Yeah.
Where have I heard that before?
And that all like leads into, like the demand, what's the demand side? And maybe a good time to, housing starts came in out on Friday for April, and, starts were up 1.6%, permits were down 4.7. If I look at year to date for 4 months, starts are down 1.6, minus 7.1 on single family, up 13.4 on multifamily. Permits are down 4.3% from last year, which just tells you on the, the new home construction side, I mean, the market's punk. I mean, it's here, but it's not that great. It's interesting when you talk about the treaters, Charles, because I've been asking a number of the spruce mills about what their home center business is, and I mean, our mill included. And what I get back is they're not pushing back and saying don't ship what they've contracted for, but if we come up with extra wood, they're saying no, that's where they're not taking anything extra.
So when I said that 2 episodes ago, it is now ringing true, because I think Matt and I went back and forth about whether that was actually the case or not, and maybe not at that point in time, and maybe not in your specific species, but I think it was definitely something to pay attention to, and now it's rearing its ugly head for sure.
Well, that would show up in treaters inventory too, wouldn't it, Charles?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the treater business as separate from the home center business, but I did talk to one of my treater customers today about an hour and a half ago, and he said, hey, they're just off to a slow start. I mean, they've got plenty of inventory and not enough takeaway. So he's kind of sitting on his hands right now in terms of purchasing stuff. But on the other hand, the home center business seems to be just clicking right along as normal. I mean, it's this is the time of year where they do some things, and then after Memorial Day, yeah, it'll slow down a little bit after Memorial Day, and we get in the dog days of summer. But that's just sort of the normal seasonal with that business. Let's talk about Section 232, Greg. You were really amped up. I mean, I have never seen you so excited to talk about.
He was like, "Take the other side of this. Take the other side of this. I want to."
I'll do that. Don't worry, I'll do that.
You better have a hot take and not suck.
So,
okay.
I just want to let you know, it's like when Dustin was all like, 232 up in Montreal, I was poo 232. We're at peak. We've gone past peak tariff BS, and all we're going to do is scale back tariffs on going forward.
Well, first, everybody needs to know what 232 actually means, right? 232
isn't that a craft brewery here in Chicago?
That was 312.
Sounds like
312.
312. Okay, that's actually now made an area code in New York. That's not 312. I think
private equity bought them.
That's
huh?
criminal.
Yeah.
That's just criminal.
So through 232 is brought on or opened up by the Department of Commerce, and it's done when any good or product coming to the United States, and I may be wrong, creates a national security threat.
Copper's on that list, I read.
And I heard steel was, and I believe from what I heard from my sources, the threat here is the trade imbalance, and there may be other ones also. And the argument to that is, well, we've had a trade imbalance for 50 years, right? But what I've been told is that there is going to be 232 is going to be opened up in June, and that'll be an additional 15% on lumber on top of the already 14%, which is a 29%. Is that right? And then when we put the new CVD AD rates in September, whatever, give or take a month, the total all in will be 50%, which will increase the cost of production to somewhere around 700 delivered Chicago on 4-inch different species. That's what I heard. And that's what the echo chamber is doing all across North America to people. And that's probably why, as Greg so wisely said today, the board is holding a $50 premium or 10% because that's about all it can hold right now until something is or isn't done. So that's what I know about it right now. I don't know if it's going to happen. I haven't heard it. And if I heard about it today, that means 1,000 other people probably heard about it before I did. And that's probably why we have a premium on futures right now. But I don't see it follow through on the cash as much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we just talked. We said, cash is in the process of bottoming out, except for yellow pine. But I mean, the other we just said the other way was a lot of spruce.
Now you know why I was about to fall asleep last week. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. I mean, there is absolutely no number one. Here's number one. Lumber is not going to have any impact on the trade on the trade deficit. Number two, of all the products out there, lumber is the least you need to worry about since, Ash, you just pointed out, there's already a 15%. It's going to 30 or 35% in 3 months anyhow. So why do you need to even, it's an aside.
Narrative, Greg. It's all politics.
But so from a marketplace standpoint, I look at it and I go, okay, so you have all these things out there. And when we look at the prices of lumber right now for spruce, and I mean, I'm not sure, like, Matt, would you say that Western species are like break even, marginally profitable, marginally losing money? Where
I think break even at best. Really efficient sawmills probably making a little bit of money, and then the older inefficient sawmills are probably losing a little bit of money. I've got some mills in the United States that want to run. I've been offering you guys, and I've been pounding around this whitewood stuff that I've been selling here for the last month, and that log is exceptionally cheap compared to the hem-fir or the Doug fir log. And so there's a reason why the mills want to run it. They want to run it because the math works. If they have to run a bunch of Doug fir and hem-fir, they're not making very much money, or maybe they're even losing money. Now, as far as the spruce guy goes, the math isn't any better up there. That log's expensive still, and labor's expensive, and their government's not really helping them out in terms of, licensing and more forest land that they can harvest off of. I mean, they've been putting more restrictions on them, actually. And the math up there, the exchange rate helps them a little bit, but they're paying that 22 to 24% duty and what do they call it? The anti-dumping. They've got the two combined
CVD and AD.
taxes that they're paying right now. So yeah, there's no miracle profit coming out of the western half of this continent right now.
Yeah, and just to add, if something on this too,
so we're in this market because demand is punk, and so it's like if and when we lose production, that's probably the thing that will actually propel prices higher. But until that happens, we are where we are, which is a cash market that's trying to find a bottom in the northern whitewoods and not finding a bottom yet in southern pine.
Well, if we're at equilibrium, like if the market's not that great, and over the last few weeks, I've noticed that we sort of seem to be at equilibrium right now in spruce and hem fir and Doug fir. Then what happens going into June, July, August, when people start realizing, hey, these new taxes that are coming along, whether we have the Section 232 or not, just the new taxes coming in August or July or September. Why would you want to be, if you're me, why would you want to be short the board? You know, I just feel like we're going into a slow crawl upwards, and the price of Canadian spruce is just going to sort of naturally rise a little bit. You know, it might take a long time. It might take 90 or 120 days, but it's just going to be because, like you're talking, Greg, we're in a supply push market. Well, when you decrease supply with summer shutdowns that always occur out of the east, and then a huge tax that's hitting everybody up north of the border, I just feel like supply is naturally going to have to drop going in the second half of the year on the whitewoods.
This is Matt. This is the conversation that I have with Montreal, and I mean, I have a short position on, and people think, well, what do you think? I go, well, I'm locking in a 10% return, risk free,
right,
on some portion of my inventory, and to add, like, I mean, Ash and I had this discussion is, we're selling some stuff these days where we're turning dollars. We're selling it. We're maybe not. We may be making a little, maybe losing a little, and then we're rebuying it to keep the basis on, right? Because and Ashley came to me and he goes, "Well, this would be great if the market went up." I go, "Well, yeah, because we're a distributor, so we're always net long, right? So no matter what, I have some hedge on, but I am net long. So, and." I mean, I was toying this morning with selling more at 600, right? I mean, even though I look at the board, Matt, and I go, hey, I could build a case that the board could go to 675. I could build that case.
Yeah.
You kind of built it for me just a little while ago.
Hey, just one.
I try to bring some value to
one
the
thing
show.
to add, then I'll jump on you. jump to you, Charles. Is if that section, or is it Section 232? I think I was at a Grateful Dead concert once in Section 232.
Poo-poo.
So
Poo-poo,
that would also affect European lumber coming in. It would be an automatic 15% on that.
Whoa, boy! Now we're talking.
So anyway,
now, I was going to say, and I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry, Ash.
No, go ahead. Good.
One big thing that I think we don't really cover and talk about very much on this is panel markets. And if you look at what's happened to OSB, it's finally broken a 12-month, high twos to $440, $130 price range. The one thing about OSB is that there's not been any production taken off the market. OSB, in my opinion, in our opinion, is probably the purest way to look at the deterioration of demand and what it's done to a normalized producing market. And if you think about Southern Yellow Pine as a whole and the amount of production that we may or may not know about, I don't know how crystal clear that data is as far as ramp up, ramp down, markets, pricing, et cetera, right? But, realistically, we've probably taken off 900 million foot, maybe a billion between some of the mills that shut down in North Florida and the 600 or 700 million that was taken off in South Carolina. But it really hasn't put a dent in it.
Yeah.
So that's the concern from a major producer standpoint, right? I mean, we can talk about $550 2x4s, right? But are we going to trade at, a 430 on number 2 for 4 or 5 months and get 550 for 2? We're not going to sell an order file, and then we're going to be right back in the same thing that we're doing now. I mean, that's a concern. That's why I say the approach has to change. Because if you look at, y'all naturally hedge your order file due to the species that you deal in, right? Okay, well, I've sold X amount of volume. Well, I know it's going to take an extra 2 weeks to get it there. So I can naturally implement that to where that pricing structure lasts longer, right? So if
we just carry longer order files because everything,
Takes longer.
80% of what we ship comes on a choo-choo train, and it takes like 4 to 6 weeks to get to the end user.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at,
So,
though, because stuff that
yeah.
you're producing today at the prices that you're at, you're going to ship next month, right, Matt? So you naturally,
Yeah, I mean, we're week of 6.2, 6.9 selling that stuff, and it's not going to get there until almost July for a lot of people. So we're always looking at things in like a 4 to 6 week window, like I alluded to.
45-day window.
That's how we view the entire, that's how I do anyways. I can't speak for all of Hampton, but that's how you have to think about things, out west, just because of the transit times.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I say the approach has to change, because everything in the Southeast and Southern Yellow Pine production as a whole, I mean, it's 7 days, right? But if you have a buildup, and I solve your buildup, you're still running a mill 5 days a week on 2 shifts. You're going to have another buildup in 5 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the only answer is build a 3-week order file and keep it there all the time, or cut it to 1 shift.
Yeah, and you're also dealing with 2 different things where you have millions of dollars of inventory at logs sitting at all the Canadian mills and most of the Pacific Northwest mills, and the inventory of logs at the Southern Pine mills are sitting still growing on a stump within, a 50-mile radius of the mill, right? So they can ramp it up or speed it up or slow it down pretty quickly relative to what the Canadians in the
They can speed up or slow down their log acquisition, but I mean,
yeah.
you still have a scenario though to where you're lower longer than you should be.
Sure.
And you're not as high as long as you should be.
It's so funny how,
because I mean, realistically,
they say history doesn't repeat itself
every time.
But
yeah, so we should move all the lumber production to the United States, so we just crush each other then. Right? I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen. Is
you think about where we were, last year at this time, we were calling a market bottom.
Yeah.
Right. In May, because of summer shutdowns and the increase in the countervailing duty. Here we are again the next year. Are we going to be saying that in 3 weeks, 4 weeks again?
I mean,
if you remember last
year,
market didn't bottom out until
4th of July, right?
No, it was late. It was almost early August for us.
It was mid-late July. It was almost the first.
Didn't we have a lot more euro laying around last year?
No, that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. No, it was last year. Last year it was Canadian mills forcing the market because the tariff was going to go from 0 to 7 to 15%.
Yeah.
And there was an incentive for them to produce and ship everything they could.
So how many public reloads are going to get jammed full of spruce in June and July? I guess that's the quiet question.
They already are, man.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
We have multiple yards that will not take any more lumber because they're full.
Yeah. Well, then we might just be having the same thing happen again, where we just sort of muddy around here for another 7 or 8 weeks, and then, finally clear the decks.
I think so. For our viewers, that are still with us, if you started early with us, you might have gotten a little upbeat and thinking that things were better. And if you're still with us, you're ready to jump off the bridge with Charles.
Yeah.
No, what I've been doing, Greg, is I've been selling stuff, but then I can buy it also. So I'm just kind of trading. I'm day trading, and I'm trying to keep my inventory relatively low, and I have been able to do that. And I plan on to continue that methodology, and until I have to change. And so far, I don't.
Yeah, the only bright spot for us, Matt, is that our inventory is like 50% of what it was last year in June and July. Right. And Ash was like, "Really, it is?" I go, "Yeah, but it's only late May, so by the time we get to July, we may very well be right back up there."
Somebody just asked me if OSB was going to be part of Section 232.
232.
And I would think if it's touching a border and crossing, if it ever went through, yes, it would be part of it. But I don't know if that's the case. And then when we decide not to trade with Canada at all, we can start a civil war of lumber in the United States where we'll have the president of the Oregonian faction that goes against the producers of the Southern Yellow Pine because they're trading at such a low price because all the production, they'll realize that, oh my gosh, we ended up hurting each other.
Yeah, we're a bunch of Yankees up here in Oregon. We're Northerners.
Or the California Coalition.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Let's so next 30 days. So we kind of went over the next 30 days. I mean, that transition period between when the new AD CVD goes in, when is that going to happen? Let's say it's scheduled to happen in September. It is going to happen in September. Are you going to see an inventory build? Are prices going to rise? I mean, everybody, things never work like everybody thinks they're going to, and they always end up resolving themselves in crazy fashion. How is that going to work out when we go into September with the new AD DVD, CD, cassette, LP,
VHS?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Betamax.
I have an idea. I mean, I think it opens the door for alternative species that's produced in the U.S., like yellow pine and hemp fir and Doug fir, especially if it's sort of similar to where we are right now, where there's a lot of crossover on prices, and yellow pine's even cheaper. But if you compare spruce to Doug fir and hemp fir on a delivered basis out here, they're all relatively close to each other, like within a shout. And and so that that would definitely open up the door for some cross trading in crossover markets. I feel sorry for the Canadians. I mean, we've got Canadian production. It's not going to be fun for us either. I just feel like it's just such a throwing dirt on a grave. It's like, hey, we've already got a 22 to 24% tax on you guys, and we're going to throw another 25% on top of you. And it's like, at some point, somebody's got to stop and go, don't we need that lumber? I mean, that's like 30% of what we consume down here. Don't we actually need it to run as a country efficiently? I don't know. Just the reason why I was bearish on the whole Trump tariffs thing back in January. I feel it's the same now. Just
Matt Beamer, please report to the principal's office.
What did I say? What did I say?
I agree with you. And
look, I've been buying Canadian lumber for 30 years, and we talked about this. I've got a lot of really good friends from Canada, and I've enjoyed doing business with Canadian people for many, many years, and I just don't like what we're talking about, right? Between insulting them as the 51st state and now we're talking about throwing a bunch of extra taxes on top, just, I don't know, just seems sort of, it's not really good economic policy if you think about it.
We got to find that one guy in the industry that must be donating a whole bunch of money from the U.S. to one of the campaigns. It's got the ear of the president. That's it. That's.
I mean, I'm back to like my thing is I think, hey, overall lumber prices are low. If you're a multifamily, any type of end user, I mean, the incentive right now is, you should the buying just in time. If there's ever a time where you should bulk up if you think your business demand is going to support it, now is the time to do that. The risk reward is relatively low, and there's a potential speculative return for that.
110% agree with you, Greg.
So,
like, why wouldn't you buy your next 6 months of OSB here?
You should.
Right.
That's that. I mean, my negative on that is, hey, demand's not going to save you, right? This is supply push. It's supply push. Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. And they say, Greg, what are the items that you like the most?
Charles,
I like the items I like the most are the ones that suck the worst. I mean, I like 2x6 right
there
here.
You go.
And to your point, you can buy a bunch of 2x6 and sell the board against it, and I guarantee you will make money. Now, I don't know what
I'll tell you this also, Greg. 2x6 production is dropping like a rock. in the western
I don't know
half
what the
of the world.
time frame is on it. You know, like a lot of times, you know, what I find in basis trading, it's one of the interesting things is when I identify a really good trade. If it's a really good trade, I can't get much of it on before it starts to move away from me. I will say this trade seems to be like hanging around and letting me get a bunch
Matt,
on.
you said 2x6 production
Yeah,
is
that
down
means
in the West right now. I mean, that's a little, that's
absolutely.
a great,
Yeah, no. All the mills that I talk to that I trade with, I've been telling them for 6 weeks, hey, if you got a choice between 2x4 and 2x6 production, just jam as much 2x4 as possible. And they're listening. And so, and then I see, you know, other mills up in Canada that I buy from, and they've got a lot of 2x4 and not a lot of 2x6. And I heard a rumor from a guy, you know, that I'm not going to name names, but I think there's enough people have figured out that 2x6 is just a hard push. And so why make it? And so they're making 2x4, they're making 2x8, they're making 2x10, and they're making 2x12
How's that 2
if they
by
have that
12 looking?
capability.
How's 2 by 12 looking?
It's like you want to open up a warehouse somewhere and just pile as much 2x12 into it. Like you're talking about 2x6 being cheap. 2x6 could triple in price. Or I mean, 2x12 could triple in price between now and November. You know, it would never be shocking. It's like it's crazy how cheap it is, and it's cheap
I don't
in
know.
everything
Is Sierra
except for
Pacific
spruce.
ever going to stop making it or what?
I don't know, dude. I mean, it's cheap in yellow pine, isn't it, Charles?
Still is.
so,
Yeah.
so I looked at, I looked at,
But it was funny. I actually looked at some of the links,
looked,
and you know, it's like random link looks really cheap, but then
16, 18s,
Go ahead,
16, 18s, and 20s are what everybody uses. They use some 12s and 14s, but 16s, 18s, and 20s were pretty high priced, right? I mean, treaters use everything, but when you're talking about construction with 2x12, a lot of the guys on the construction side use 16s, 18s, and 20s. And some 12s and 14s. But also you look at 2x12 pine, it does have some upside, but it doesn't have as much upside, in my opinion, as 2x6 Southern pine does. What do you think? What do you think of that, Charlie? Am I off on that or not? I'm talking. You buy.
and you have more
You buy.
liquidity.
You buy.
Look at
You
him.
buy
He's
eight,
Cheshire
because
Cat.
we talked about 2x12 last week, and I ran the Southern Pine 2x12 charts, and I just didn't see I couldn't have all the love for it.
Well, 14s is the biggest one of them
Okay.
all as far as opportunity on upside, right? I mean, this time last year, once again, it was mid fours to over
Okay.
$500. I mean, when you start talking about 16 and longer, yeah, that's a big product for a lot of people. But
And that's
14,
a lot of money. Those were $600 or something in some cases, right?
yeah. But as far as, you know, 6-inch versus 12-inch and opportunity and cash prices, et cetera, as we have this conversation,
Yeah,
I agree with you.
on the 6-inch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
6-inch is more upside than 12-inch.
Well, the reason I say that too is it has more liquidity at the different places. I mean, 12
Well,
inch.
oh yeah, no. I mean, not only does it have more liquidity, but just like, you know, what Matt just said, there's a lot of mills that don't have 6-inch available in differing species, and when they do, you know, that pricing seems to elevate itself pretty rapidly, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to have another species pull it up, is basically what it is.
Yeah.
So, Greg, you're talking about it's been easy for you to keep that 2x6 basis thing going. You know, the wheel keeps spinning. That means it probably won't really work for you until September. You're just going to have to sit on that position for 4 months.
We're just going to have to wait and see. I think that I feel like that's the theme of my life. The past
all those
3
positions
years.
take so much longer to kick in a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you gotta eat a bunch of loss up front to hopefully make it on the backside.
And by the time you're so
Yeah,
thoroughly
for sure.
depressed and you're trying to buy that last few trucks or cars of it, and it finally moves and the basis just flies $100, $1,000 in your direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
Ashley, what are your thoughts on the market this summer and going into the fall? I'm kind of curious where you stand on it.
Yeah. So last week after our conversation and for the last few weeks, I've been like I said, it's supply push going to do it because I've seen demand slowly disappearing. And the way I see it is customers are shopping. Customers used to get a lot. It could be me just doing a bad job selling, but customers that normally
I
would
did
give
not
you
say
orders.
that.
Yeah, customers certainly is part of that. But
I did
I've
not
seen
say that.
customers that used to just give me an order in a market that was moving a lot more. It's a lot harder to get. You got to work a lot harder for orders, and the market seems to be just getting. It's a more normalized market. When Matt back in the day, but we had to when you and I would call and be like, "Oh, we sold some cars for $10 $1,000 a day." Oh, good job, right? I mean, you're not getting the cars for 20, 30, $40 $1,000 anymore. Orders are a lot harder to come by.
Yeah.
A lot more competition in certain areas. I'm seeing people leaving companies, traders, younger traders, and going to, base salary companies with that. I'm seeing a lot of people leaving the industry. I'm hearing frustration from other people, which means there's opportunity because this is a hard market. I don't think a lot of people have been through some of these. So you asked me what I think. I think that the market kind of treads water here. We have some bright spots. I just don't know what's going to happen in September. I have a hard time thinking everybody's saying it's going to go up $700, $1,000 minimum. And things never play out like we think it's going to. So something else is going to happen. The hand of God that we used to always say is going to come in and something's going to change something here.
Well, the funds are exceptionally short in the board. So if somebody decides they want to buy a bunch of contracts, they could definitely push the funds around for a while.
The industry's
Look at
long.
what happened with May expiration, like going up, running up $50 $1,000
$50
in a real vacuum.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows you that it looks like at this point the direction of least resistance for prices is up.
That's where all the gaps are. We filled we filled all the lower gaps, so now we're going to have to take out the upper gaps.
Your trench warfare going down and fighting hard, and we've got all of these landmines that are in front that could potentially blow the market higher. What's the thing that could really crash it further would be a huge collapse in demand from here, which I will tell you that
I do have a question about
homes for sale. Let me just throw some water on this. Homes for sale are up 18% from a year ago. The supply of homes, new and existing, continues to grow. And in the hottest markets, they're up the most. 36 Phoenix, 34 Dallas, 54 Denver, 49 Vegas. The only good markets are up here in the Midwest: Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Minneapolis, St. Louis. Those markets, the supply is flat to actually down a little bit or up a little bit. So
yeah. Just to add to what
I'm bipolar.
You're thoroughly confused.
Yes, I agree with all of that. My question is, right? I was still in college in 2008.
Is that your 6th year, 7th year,
8th year?
He was on scholarship.
Yeah, he was a redshirt freshman and sophomore.
Redshirt 28 year freshman.
Yeah, that's exactly. Didn't graduate till I was 27. Yeah, that's it. So how reminiscent is demand destruction that's going on right now due to unaffordability, not a mortgage crisis, not a CMBS? There's no comparison.
There's absolutely no comparison. Back then, we had built 2 million houses for 2 years in a row, and we had overbuilt stuff unbelievably. The underlying positive for housing is that we're not overbuilt, we're overpriced.
Yeah, we just have an affordability
I understand
issue.
that. I fully understand that, but I guess from a demand standpoint, right? Demand destruction that has occurred over the past 12 to 18 months, right? At the velocity at which it has. Because last year, the first 6 months were pretty good, and then it fell like a rock in a pond, right? July just collapsed. Everything, every species, everywhere, right? So I guess is this something that is reminiscent of an experience that y'all have already been through? Can you shed some light on that, or is this
No, not at all.
So
Dude,
it's a
you
completely
couldn't
different
sell.
market.
You couldn't sell anything on. You couldn't buy anything on spec. First of all, I mean, it didn't matter how cheap you bought it. You just couldn't buy it because you couldn't sell it. Like there was a liquidity problem. I mean, so we had all these homes that Greg was talking about, and on top of that, you had a metric shit ton of foreclosures that were, the banks owned. And look, dude, I could have bought I could have bought a mansion that was, 10 acres, tennis court, swimming pool, 6,000 square feet with another 1,500 square feet added on top of the 3-car garage that was separate of the place. I mean, it was had a manicured. I could have bought that for $450,000 if I just wanted to write a check, and it's probably worth $2 million. And you had a lot of that kind of stuff. You had a lot of nice homes for sale, and you had a lot of junky homes. I mean, people bought homes in Phoenix for $50,000 cash. I mean, it was bad, dude. It was so bad you can't even really describe it. This is nothing like that. Nothing.
The only thing that's reminiscent to me of that time and the lack of liquidity is finger joint studs in Texas.
Oh, you're going to bring that bad horse up again, are you?
Ashley and I have been offering them. Ashley and I have been offering the market down for $150 a thousand.
Yeah.
We sell a little bit here and there, and then it's like I can't believe the size of companies that go, yeah, no, we can't use it. Hey, I know the market's supposedly 575, but we can't use them at 525 or 500. I mean, it blows my mind. And I'm still like going, what am I missing about that? And I hear, Texas is okay business wise. It's not great. But when you have a product like that, I mean, I don't know.
Problem is that so many people decide to run their extra inventory into a reload. And so now there's plenty of it, and it'll just take probably another 30 to 60 days to sort itself out. Just got to be patient on that one. But yeah, that's what happens whenever
that market won't bottom until we sell the last truck, Ash.
Yeah, when you get a firm offer on your last 10 trucks at 50 off. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know when that happens.
So what do we?
Hey, you guys.
We've consistently been like $50 below the market or more, and
What's up, Matt?
Yeah. I gotta get going, man. I gotta get packed.
Oh yeah,
you gotta get packed. Hey, have a great trip, man.
Yeah,
we can't wait to hear about it when you get back.
I'm gonna miss you guys. I'll catch you the week of June 2nd. I'll be back. Okay, so we can do it on that Wednesday if you're all up for it.
Yeah, can we do it?
Yep.
Can we do it at a time where I don't have to miss karate?
Karate.
Yeah.
K-Rate.
That's.
I'm a karate man.
Hi,
I'm a
guys.
karate man. I bruise on the inside.
No. It's not for me. It's for my son. Smart ass.
Wax on, wax off. Go kick the fence post, kid. You're good enough.
Man, have a great trip.
All right, see you guys.